Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now August 25th of 2020, and ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, a lot of fans around the world have been very intrigued about the future of the Star Wars franchise by Disney, Lucasfilm, and of course Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, and what they're really putting together from this point on forward. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, the one thing about Disney Star Wars is that yes, we do know that they are currently in a phase of damage control and desperation to really get the ball rolling again when it comes to Star Wars. Essentially, what they really want to do is that they really want to bring Star Wars back to the way it was before 2012. We're talking about the pre-Disney era of Star Wars, where the fans were pretty much, at a time accepting what happened with the prequels, regardless of the criticism, and were just enjoying the overall new universe at that point in time, which was the old EU. The books, the comics, so on and so forth. The best book out there of all time for Star Wars in the old expanded universe is the last one back in 2013 that involved Luke, Leia, and Han Solo. I do suggest that you guys go ahead and check it out. Now, when we look at everything related to what Disney and Lucasfilm are planning to do with the future of Star Wars, they're primarily focused on Star Wars television. They're really focused on Disney Plus and exactly what that's going to look like aside from the actual movies. So what's really exciting about all of this actually involves the rise of Skywalker as a film. Now, regardless, we do know that this movie had a very shaky production in behind the scenes. Kathleen Kennedy really messed a lot of things up by initiating many of those reshoots and rewrites for the film. However, what's really intriguing is that ever since the very end of the Skywalker saga, both Disney and Lucasfilm have been focused on their new Star Wars trilogy of films, as well as their new Star Wars universe. Both Bob Iger and Bob Chapek are doing everything in their power in order to reunite the Star Wars fandom. Now, it's noted that Chapek is pushing for the release of the Lucas cut of Episode 9 that is aimed to be 4 hours long in length that will include a host of deleted scenes that involve characters like Anakin, Luke, and even Palpatine. Now, one of the major scenes that were cut by Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy involved a sequence taking place within the second Death Star wreckage on the moon called Kef Bir. This is where Kylo Ren would invade the wreckage, trying to find Rey during this time, where he would begin to hear strange voices during his travels through the wreckage of the second Death Star. Now, the voices that Kylo hears are said to be the voices of Darth Vader and Palpatine, taken directly from Return of the Jedi and mixed in a very creepy and horror-esque way. This is where eventually Kylo Ren progresses his way to the throne room that once belonged to Palpatine, where Kylo Ren begins to train through the ways of the dark side, with the broken Darth Vader lightsaber splitting in half and focusing on the kyber crystal with the hilt that he has actually been carrying throughout this entire cut of the movie. So here's another great thing about Lucas, is that what he really wanted to do is that he wanted to have a lot of callbacks to the character of Darth Vader by including his broken lightsaber. Now, we're not quite sure exactly where Darth Vader's lightsaber showed up in this cut of the film, but Kylo Ren somehow, someway got a hold of it. It's kind of similar to how a lot of fans were wondering how he got the melted helmet, where in the George Lucas / JJ cut, the helmet was actually a part of a shrine created by Luke inside of his temple that Kylo Ren stole. So what's really interesting about this is that we have Kylo Ren training through the ways of the dark side and focusing on Vader's actual lightsaber. This is where the Force Ghost voice of Anakin Skywalker will begin to tune into Kylo's mind, telling him to slip away from the dark side of the Force. Anakin's Force Ghost would appear within the throne room of Palpatine and would give Kylo a deep lesson of how Palpatine manipulated him, just like himself, into becoming Darth Vader. This was the original scene by George Lucas to turn Kylo Ren to the light side of the Force instead of the Han Solo scene in the movie. Now, here's the thing about this, is that a lot of people were a little so-so on the Han Solo scene in Episode 9, and I will agree that it could have been better. It could have been handled in a more, I guess you could say, legitimate way, where maybe Kylo was talking to an actual living person. That, to me, would have meant more, or maybe even a Force Ghost at that, which, in this scenario, is exactly what Kylo was doing. He was talking to somebody that was actually there, as opposed to a vision. Moving on. Now, Kylo Ren would then communicate with the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker, of his grandfather, who has a different design in this cut of the film by Lucas and Abrams. Anakin would begin to walk over to Kylo Ren in the middle of the wreckage of the Death Star and would tell him the truth of Rey Palpatine and what Kylo must do. In this scene, Kylo was also holding his mask in his left hand, and once Anakin would reach out to Kylo Ren to turn to the light, Ben Solo would now throw the Kylo Ren mask out into the ocean, just how he did with the saber in the final cut of the film. Now, the scene also involved a moment in which a now-turned Ben Solo would have an emotional sequence with Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost, where, of course, Anakin Skywalker would actually have a scene with Kylo Ren / Ben Solo in a more emotional state. The sequence would progress to a moment in which Ben Solo is handed Leia's lightsaber by Anakin's Force Ghost in the scene, where Lucas wanted to explore the concept of Force Ghosts grabbing objects across space and time, where Anakin's ghost got hold of the saber from his son Luke on Ahch-To, as opposed to the final cut. In this version, Ben Solo would receive his mother's saber from his grandfather Anakin, telling him to destroy Sidious once and for all, and even warns Kylo about the possibility of his spirit trying to live on after and to make sure he defeats Palpatine on both ends. So now, here's the very big thing that I think a lot of fans are very upset about, is that this would have been a historical scene to actually have between Anakin and Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. There's two reasons. When we go ahead and take a look at Kylo Ren as a character, he is essentially reverse Anakin Skywalker. He is a parallel of Anakin. He is literally like, J.J. Abrams' version of Anakin Skywalker. And that's exactly what Disney was aiming for. They wanted to actually introduce an Anakin in, reverse. That's what they wanted to do with the sequel trilogy. Now, the thing about this that's really interesting about all of this related to George Lucas and what he had planned to do on the second Death Star wreckage is that the Darth Vader lightsaber was going to have a very big, significant presence in this movie. It was really going to be another one of Darth Vader's artifacts that would be seen. Originally, they wanted to expand off of the Darth Vader melted helmet and explore more artifacts of Darth Vader to be seen, kind of paying homage to the iconic villain. However, in the second Death Star wreckage here, I think what's so iconic is how we have both Anakin and Kylo standing within the Palpatine throne room, the very moment in which, we had Anakin turn to the light, or Vader turn to the light, at the very end of Return of the Jedi. That's where it all happened. And it just makes a lot of sense, symbolically to have him placed there, because this too is where Kylo Ren would also turn to the light, becoming Ben Solo again. You can see the parallels here. And it's a very interesting process of what J.J. Abrams and George Lucas were trying to do. Now, yes, technically, in the final cut, we somewhat got that parallel. Kylo turns to Ben Solo, turns to the light just like Anakin in a sense, just near the second Death Star, just as Anakin did. But he wasn't really in the actual throne room. This is a more visual concept by George to show the big parallels in a more visual manner to the audience around the world. And that to me speaks volumes. I think it tells us that Lucas and Abrams had a lot of ideas in their mind, and they were really trying to just go with it, and Kathleen Kennedy interrupted. She called for a lot of the scenes to be reshot or rewritten, and it was very much a letdown. A lot of fans were very upset about what Kathleen Kennedy had done to the overall Star Wars universe, and it's really a shame. It is, because we would have gotten something so unique, something so powerful such as a scene like this, that would have really explored, the erasing of Kylo Ren and the resurrection, essentially, of Ben Solo coming back through the ways of Anakin's words. That, to me, sounds so emotional, and I think it really would have been probably one of the best scenes of the entire saga, to be honest, depending on how it was all going to be executed on the big screen. So, like I said before in the past, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From nights alone we hear